Hi, it's great to have you here for today's Planning for Success webinar. I'm Debbie Clement-Large from whyfollowtheherd.com. And as everybody joins, I'll just let you know that we are in listen only mode, but please feel free to put any questions in the chat box anytime throughout the webinar, and I'll really do my best to answer them. For those of you who are joining, this is a rerun of the Planning for Success webinar we had recently. We had a few technical difficulties with that, so it's really great that you're back again. We've got some people from all over the place, all over the world, from the States, New Zealand, UK. If you're anywhere else in the world, let me know. It'd be nice to hear from you. It's really, really good, you know, that there are so many people that just want to plan effectively. And not only for their own future, but the future of their business as well. And to help me talk you through the creative planning journey, I have some slides which I will put up now. I'd like to share with you. Okay, so this is what we're looking at today. We're planning for success. And as I said, I'm Debbie Clement-Large. So if you could grab a pen and a bit of paper, handy because you'll need them later. We've got some exercises that we're going to have a look at, so that would be great if you could have that available. And what we're covering today, well, we're going to be having a look at why we plan at all. Why is it worth taking the time and effort to plan? What does success mean for you? I mean, it does mean lots of different things to lots of different people's success. We're going to be having a look at some rules for success as well, and setting our own personal and business goals. And we'll run through a couple of great techniques that you can use for both your personal and your professional goal setting. We're going to look at why and how we're going to plan and taking the steps towards achieving those plans. So why might we want to plan? Well, now this is a great piece of research on here, and I apologise for the amount of words on there. Now I think it came from Bob Proctor, but I'm not 100% sure. So if it's not, you know, I apologise, and you know, I'd like to credit the right person, but I can't quite remember. But whoever it was actually said that if you don't have any goals, then the chance of you reaching the end of the year with what you want are negligible. Now, if you decide upon goals but keep them to yourself, then the chance of you making them happen rises to 30%, which is a big difference. And if you decide upon your goals and you commit them to paper, the chance of them materializing leaps to 50%. So that's just the fact that you're writing them down instead of keeping them in your head gives you an extra 20% chance of having them materialize in your life, which is quite a big difference. But what's really, really surprising is that if you decide upon your goals, you commit them to paper, and then you share them with other people. And if you just do that act of sharing it with somebody else, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, whether it's a partner that you're in business with, or whoever, if you write those down, the chance of you having them materialize in your life skyrockets to 80%. I mean, that is just a huge difference. Just going from the fact of not having any goals and then going up to having goals, writing them down and sharing them with somebody else means that, you know, you've got 80% more chance of getting them. And that's what's really good about coaching, because that's somebody there that actually is on your side. They're wanting you to be able to materialize what you want in your life. So the reason why we need to plan is that usually it's because there's something in our lives that we want to make a change to. And you know, I love this quote from Albert Einstein. He said, insanity is keep doing what we keep doing and expecting a different result. Because it's true, isn't it? If we keep on doing the same old things all the time, we're going to get the same results. So if we want to plan for a different future, we want to plan for something new in our lives, then we really do need to think about what we're doing at the moment and putting in some steps that can help us to achieve something different. Now, this is really small writing, so I'm going to read a lot of this out. Now, these are some personal and professional rules to success that Steve Jobs had, and I like these. So his first one was, do what you love. People with passion can change the world. And that really fits in what Joseph Campbell said. Now, Joseph Campbell studied mythology and traditions and things like that across the world. And his thing was actually follow your bliss, to find what you love to do and then to do it and to follow it. Now, Steve Jobs' second tip was have a huge, big vision. So dare to dream big, because you only achieve big things with big goals. His third tip was to get out of your comfort zone and connect ideas from different fields. And our comfort zone's a really interesting thing, because we don't always like to stretch our comfort zone. It's comfortable in our comfort zone, which is why it's called a comfort zone. And it's difficult to step outside, but when you do, you find that your comfort zone will stretch with you. Now, it might not stretch on the first time you do something. Say you don't like networking, but you actually make the effort and you put yourself out there. Gradually, the more you do it, your comfort zone will stretch to fit and you will become more comfortable in networking. And that's really interesting. So the more we do something, the wider our comfort zone is and the more things we can do happily. So Steve Jobs' fourth tip was choose what you do and don't do very wisely, and be very proud of both. And that's great, because just because somebody's asking you to do something, or you think something, or you're being told that maybe something is a good idea, doesn't mean that's what you should do. Just because on paper it looks like a good idea, it might not fit in with your vision or your reason why you want to do something. So don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to turn down things, to follow what feels right for you. And I actually heard something the other day which was quite interesting. There was a personal development coach, and he'd written this book, and it was something a little bit different, not his usual style. And he submitted it to the publisher, and there was a big advance waiting for him, and the publisher read it and they didn't get it. And they said, actually, this doesn't have all the stuff that you normally put in your books, doesn't have a lot of stuff about you. We don't get it. You either change it or we'll have our money back. Now, this was a significant amount of money. You know, for a lot of people, this was a life-changing amount of money that this deal was. But this guy felt so passionate about his book and felt that it was such the right thing to do, he gave them the advance back. And he actually went out with that book and found another publisher that would take it on. But what a risk. And, you know, it just shows that you don't have to sell yourself up the river. You can stick to what you think is the right thing to do. Now, the next tip was number 5, it's enrich your customers' lives. So he says, create an experience for your customer like they never had before. And this is everything that we want today. We want value in our lives. We want businesses and organizations to add value to our lives. And we as businesses want to be able to add value to our customers' lives. So we have to create an experience for our customer like they've never had before. And we need to get them to trust and build authority and to believe in who we are and what we want and where we're going towards and what we're heading for. So that's really important. And they buy into the stories, dreams and magic. They don't always buy into stuff. You know, people buy into the transformation. They buy into the reason why you do something. The 6th point, he said, was about mastering communication. So master your presentation. Now, it's very, very well documented that Steve Jobs wasn't the best communicator when he first started out. His presentations weren't particularly slick in any way, but over time he mastered that, and he became a real master of communication and a great storyteller. He could ignite passion and enthusiasm in other people about his products and his ideas and his designs. And that's what made Apple so great. They could easily show the transformation. They could tell the story of their product. So when they first brought out when they talked about the iPod, when it first came out, they didn't say it's an 8 GB gadget. It's 8 centimeters by 5 centimeters or whatever it is. It doesn't say the speed of bringing forth a piece of music or anything else. What the story and how he communicated that across was, you've got 1,000 tunes in your pocket. So it didn't matter the size. It didn't matter the size of the memory. It didn't matter the size of the speed of the system, the processing and whatever else goes into an iPod. It said 1,000 tunes in your pocket. And that told the consumer or the people selling that product everything it needed to know, that actually you could really carry that amount of music with you. And that was really exciting for people. That was the transformation. And he was a master communicator at things like that. And I cover a lot of this sort of thing in my Creative Academy. We can look at making yourself memorable, both personally and professionally, and the power of narrative and story. And that is just so key at the moment. It always has been, but it is just so important. And point 7 of his was sell dreams, not products. So people don't care so much about the products they buy. They care about how those products will make them feel and how they will enrich their lives. So, that's really, really key. Anyway, my rules for success is focus on creativity, not competition. Creativity is so much more powerful than trying to act competitively. Now, that doesn't mean to say you don't understand who your competitors are and what they're doing. It means that you're spending more time thinking out of the box, that you're looking at things differently, that you understand your customer, and you're making better connections and selling the dream of what your product or service can do. You also should focus on adding value to your stakeholders. So who are your stakeholders? Well, they're anyone with a vested interest in what you're doing. So they can be colleagues, employees, customers, suppliers. The important thing is to focus on adding value to them, more so than just adding value to your shareholders. Now, when you focus merely on adding value to your shareholders, businesses end up stifling their growth. Your customers really don't care about that. They don't care how much, about adding value to the shareholders. They care about how much you can add value to their life. Now, and the other important thing to think about is taking baby steps every day. Do something that scares you. Something that shifts your comfort zone, and then monitor your progress and take corrective action when you need to, just to make sure that you're keeping along the path. So what does success look like for you? And that's an interesting one, because success is different for everybody. For some people, success means a big car, a large house. For others, it's doing what they love. So how you feel about success depends on your own personal backstory and your cultural conditioning. Now, everything we do is determined by our attitude, and almost 90% of our success will be determined by how positive our mental attitude is. Now, remember that attitudes are nothing more than habits of thought, and habits can be acquired, they can be formed, and they can be learned at any time. And this is the great thing about this, is that our attitude is something that we have control over. So putting this simply, our attitude to life determines life's attitude towards us. And the world that we experience is merely a reflection of our own attitude. So whether you think you can, or whether you think people are nice, whether you think an area is warm and welcoming, that's kind of what you're going to get. And whatever is expressed externally will be impressed internally upon you. Now, Earl Nightingale was a great thinker and did a lot about motivation and leadership and goal setting and being successful. And he said that for him, success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And he said that if someone is working towards a predetermined goal and knows where they're going, then that person is a success. And if they're not doing that, they are a failure. So that shows to me that actually success isn't a destination at all. Success is a journey. And we can all dream. And that's great if we dream, because that's really, really important. But what you really need to be thinking about is actually making the steps and taking the action towards making that dream a reality. And as long as you're doing that, you are working towards that ideal, and therefore you're already working as a success in your life. So that brings us to look at, are we doing what we love to do? And if we aren't already doing what we love to be doing, then please don't be hard on yourself. You know, it isn't your fault. This is all a result of the conditioning of our culture. Now, the important thing to do is to focus on getting the self-love back and look forward to recovering the dream, because we've all had a dream at some point in our lives. Or you can look forward to hoping and planning for a new way of life. Now, even if you work full time, a lot can be done between the hours of, say, 8 p.m. and 1 p.m. each night towards your goals, 11 p.m. at night towards your goals. And eventually you will start to see the stuff you're doing in the evenings earn you enough money to give you some choices. And having a plan takes away the fear of doing something different. So what we need to be doing is thinking about developing a sense of wonder. So instead of fearing the fear of moving forward and putting lots of obstacles in our way, maybe we should say something like, I wonder what would happen if. Or you could say, do you know what, that doesn't make logical sense, but I wonder what would happen if I did. Now, if you have an attitude and think in those ways, a wonder enables you to retain a capacity for wonder, for being open-minded and for being curious about things. And the wonder in us guides us towards conscious, learned optimism. And when you think in this way, this is when you open the door towards our own creativity. So this takes us then towards, what does your future look like? You know, how do you see your future? What's ahead? Have you looked? If you could do anything, what would you do? If nothing would hold you back, you know, and anything was possible, what would you do? Do you have any plans? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any thoughts? Have you had things in your life maybe that have been, you know, secret dreams? You know, we've all had dreams when we're a child and we're thinking about what we want. And sometimes we hide them because we think that we can't achieve them, or we think we've got to grow up and live in the real world. And sometimes those dreams never leave us. They just lie a little dormant inside us. And it could mean we're either holding ourselves back from our dreams, or we could feel other people are holding us back from our dreams. But really, we've got to take responsibility from that. So it's interesting to listen to your internal chatter, because we all have that internal voice. And what is yours telling you? Does it tell you that you can do it? Or does it tell you that you can't do it? Because whatever you're telling yourself is what you'll be heading towards. And you can tell whether you're moving towards what you want or away from what you want, not necessarily by listening to the chatter in your head, by getting an understanding and listening to the way you feel about something. So if you're feeling excited, or you're feeling happy, or, you know, grateful, and all the rest of the good things that are happening, that's great. You're obviously moving in the right direction. But if you're feeling anxious, if you're concerned about something, you don't know what to do, you're feeling at a crossroads, then, maybe you're holding yourself back from what you want. And what we don't want to do in life is to allow ourselves to just drift along and to let the winds of change and other people and situations and circumstances determine where we end up in life. Because if you're not careful, before you know it, time is running out. And what you don't want to do is look back with regrets. Because you are in the driver's seat of your own life. So grab the wheel and prepare to take control of your future. So do something that will make a positive difference in your life. And the best time to do that is now. Honestly, don't look back with regrets. Whatever has happened in the past is for reference only. But you mustn't reside in that. Move forward. And you shouldn't live for the future totally either, because tomorrow never comes. It's always today. So make today count. And don't worry about taking steps. And don't worry about maybe things not working out right, because everybody experiences failure. Education has conditioned us that our work is graded in a way. We can either be marked an A, B, or C. And that when we do competitions, there's a first place, a second place, a third place, that everything's about competing. And when we're children, that's the point when we start to do things in such a way as to avoid failure. And we get to a point then where we become even afraid to try, because we're afraid to fail. But really, failure is all in the mind. And our attitude determines how we see the world. I mean, just think, if Edison had seen his first failure to create electric light bulb as a sign that it wouldn't work, then he might have given up. But thank goodness he didn't. He just saw it as one way of not to do something. The same happened with James Dyson. He created tons and tons and tons of models, of designs, to try to see his new idea, his new concept for a vacuum cleaner. And but he used his creative thinking to overcome all the obstacles. Even when other manufacturers turned him down, he decided to go alone. He managed to get the funding and all the rest of it to set up, and he's never looked back. And it really is that the thoughts you repeat most often in your head are the ones that you start to accept as true by your subconscious. So we need to be really, really careful about what we think about. And as that great quote by Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. But what failure does is it makes us stronger. And, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, James Dyson, and countless others have found that finding a way not to do something actually makes us stronger and more resilient. So what we need to move on to think about is who inspires us. And it's really good to have a look at who inspires us and the reason why they inspire us. Now, it doesn't matter whether those people that inspire you are celebrities or not. Just think about the reasons why they stick in your mind. What is it about them that inspires you? Because whatever that element is, means that you have some connection with that part of them. You have a rapport, and that shows that you have within you the same elements that you can bring forth. But you need more than to feel inspired to do something to make a difference to your life and work. You actually need to put your plan into action. So this is where we start to think about shooting for our goals. So business versus personal planning. The really interesting thing about this is that most of us think about our work goals more than we plan our own personal goals. So do you know what your goals and aspirations are, and have you made plans to achieve them? And what's really difficult for a lot of people, and it's a big challenge, I hear it a lot, is that they don't know what they want. But our greatest gift to ourselves is having the ability to select our own goals and to define our purpose. Whatever achievement we make, no matter how big or small, is always preceded by a goal. So goal setting is the trigger that fires your imagination and releases your potential. And the plan is the vehicle that makes your goal purposeful. So the first step in setting goals is learning how to dream. Now, if you don't know what you want, then I would really urge you to spend some time after the webinar learning to dream again. There are a variety of techniques you can use, including flow writing, visualization, and I cover these in my Creative Academy for those of you who are members. So once you know what your dream, what you want is, what's important is to make your vision really powerful. Now, if you just have a list of goals with dates, with the things that you want to achieve, that's better than not having anything at all, but it isn't the most powerful technique that you can use. And the problem is that when we just have goals on a piece of paper or in a notebook, they tend to get hidden in a dusty drawer and they never get seen again. But when you make use of both your creative and logical sides of your brain, you create goals and plans that are far more powerful. You see, you choose your destination through your creative side of your brain, and you use the logical side of your brain to organize that journey. So when you put the two together, it just works phenomenally well. And we can use this technique for both our personal and our business plans as well. But if we're going on to business plans, there are a few extra things that we really need to think about. So, okay. So, as I said, a few extra things we need to think about, and they are your business vision. Now, your goals might be for a team within an organization or for the business as a whole, but you really need to bear in mind these four things. Your mission. Now, your mission drives your organization forward. It's the reason why it exists. It's what it intends to achieve. It's its whole purpose for being. And then you move on to your objectives. Now, your objectives are the goals against which the organization's achievements can be measured. So it's a pure measuring how well you're doing to achieving what you're setting out to achieve. Now, your strategy is the approach that the business is going to take in order to achieve its mission and objectives. So that tends to be a longish term thing as well, because your mission is a long-term thing. And the tactics are the shorter term things that you're going to use to implement your strategy. So your strategy might be over, I don't know, a couple of years, and your tactics may be reviewed, maybe 6 monthly, maybe a bit more, a bit less. So they're the shorter term things. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is whether the business has a mission, objective, strategy, and tactics defined. And these following questions will help you decide whether or not they're well defined. So do you have a complete and consistent information for each area, for your mission, your objectives, your strategy, and your tactics? Are all these four elements in alignment with each other? Do all four of the elements provide a clear direction for the business? Now, if you have employees, are they all aware of the four elements and how their work fits into them? And are your employees supportive of the four elements? Now, if you've answered no to any of those questions, then I'd really urge you to spend some time thinking and working on strengthening the mission, objective, strategy, and tactics. Otherwise, they're just going to cause weaknesses within your business. Because it's really important, just because you have those four visions lined up and written down doesn't mean that you have buy-in from your employees. And if you don't get buy-in from them, then they will have no motivation to delivering against them. So it's really, really critical. And the other thing that's really, really critical is to having a look at how you fit into your marketplace. So So your critical success factors will be derived from your mission, objective, strategy, and tactics. And they split into two ways. We want an industry-wide one. So this is what just keeps you in the game as being a competitor. And then you need an organization specific as well. So let's have an example. For a restaurant, you may decide that its industry-wide critical success factor is to maintain excellent customer service, because the restaurant knows that without that, it won't be able to compete on a level playing field with all the other restaurants in the area. So the restaurant owners will need to decide then, once they've got the bit, the organisation specific ones, they'll need to decide what defines them as different from all the other restaurants. So what's going to help them to stand out and gain them customers? So in this example, I've put that they are basing the menu purely on locally sourced organic produce. So just to keep them in the market competing, they have to have excellent customer service. And then what stands them out from their competitors and makes them unique is having locally sourced organic produce. Now, during the year, the restaurant owners will need to know whether they're attaining their critical success factors. So in order to do that, they'll need to put some key performance measures or indicators in place. Now, they need to be really specific. So in this example, the restaurant will need to know that it has achieved its industry-wide critical success factor when it's, for example, got less than 2% of customer complaints in a month. So if it's got less than 2% customer complaints, it knows actually we're doing pretty well on that and we're fine. Now, it also needs to set one for its organization's specific critical success factor as well. And in this instance, we've put less than 5% returned meals. So it knows that, if it's within that measure, that it's actually standing out on its own as a business as well. Now, bringing all this together, we need to think about making our objectives and our goals SMART. Now, I'm sure you've seen this before, but our goals and how we measure them need to be specific. So you need to define the goal as much as possible. Who, what, where, when, and how. It needs to be measurable. How much, how many, how will I know if my goal is accomplished? So for our restaurant just a minute ago, it would know that its goal had been accomplished when it had less than 2% of customer complaints in a particular time period. So it could be per month, per week, per quarter, whatever that is predetermined by the restaurant. You also need to make sure that the things that you're achieving and moving towards are attainable. Is your goal reasonable enough to be accomplished? And the next one, is it relevant? Is the goal worthwhile? Will it meet your needs? And if it's a team goal, does it fit in with the overall mission and strategy of your organization? And the last one is timely. What are the timelines for attaining your goal? So for an example with a restaurant just a minute ago, we set monthly goals. So, this is something that they would need to look at then every month. So let's move on now towards getting our pen and paper out, getting an exercise and preparing some of our own personal goals and plans. Now, this first exercise is primarily meant for personal goals, but it really can be adapted for business goals too. You just might, if you're going to do it for business goals, that's fine, but you just may want to make the structure more in keeping with your brand image and design. Okay, so instead of using a pen and paper, you might want to put some better some nice graphics in that's in keeping with your logo and things like that. But really, the concept is the same. But if you are looking at it on behalf of your business, just bear in mind the overall mission, objective, strategy, and tactics, and what is critical to its success. So we're going to start off with, and this is a really, really powerful exercise. We're going to start off by looking at what your future plans, what the road ahead, what are you journeying towards? See, when we set off on a journey, say we're in our car, we can only see a small portion of the road ahead. So if I'm wanting to travel from London to Manchester, I'll only see a part of the road, but I know as I'm driving that the rest of the road will reveal itself as I travel. And that's the same with our plans. We may not know how we're going to get to our destination, and we might not know all the routes that we need to take, but as long as we know what our end goal is, then we can set off making small adjustments along the way. However, I would need to say that you do really need to be in mind that if you are completely and utterly focused on one goal, you may miss other opportunities. So you do need to retain an element of flexibility towards your goals. You still want to allow that bit of creativity to come in, to, be aware of other things that are around you. Don't be absolutely fixed on it. So let's move on. What are we journeying towards? So in this example, I've put a new house. So I'm doing this on a personal goal setting basis. And that might be great. Somebody might want to buy a new house or upgrade to a bigger house or maybe a new area. But that might not be all the things we want to plan for in our life. We usually have other things that we want as well. So in this instance, I've put our sub goals either side of our main goal. But you can have more than one either side. You can, fit in as many as you around the sides. So in this example, I've got a picture to illustrate owning your own business on the left. So I've got a whiteboard on a stand and a person. And on the right-hand side, I've got a picture of a holiday destination. I've got some palm trees, a hammock, some sea, and some sand. So that could illustrate a dream holiday. And you'll notice that they're pictures too, because drawing is a really powerful way for igniting the creative side of your brain. And please don't worry about your drawing skills. Matchstick men are absolutely fine. And as I said before, if you were using this as a basis for your work plan, you can still put the elements in the same place within your plan. But you might want to think about, instead of physically drawing it, you might want to put the image that the business is trying to achieve, like its mission. Okay, so what feels realistic for your business? Now, the next bit of the diagram we need to move on to is the why. And the why is really, really important, because this is the reasons that keep us moving towards what we want. It gives us our clear direction, the reason why we're heading there. And they help to keep us focused when we start hitting obstacles, because, no matter with best laid plans and all that, will inevitably hit some obstacles along our road. And the whys are the reason we want to achieve our goal. So in this example, I've got a smiley face for happiness. I've got 3 stick people for family. And then I've got a set of scales for work-life balance. And then we want to move on to how we plan to get there. And here is where we start drawing how we think we're going to achieve our goals. So I've put in this example, I've got 3 areas. I've got through learning, through building confidence, and by earning more money. So I've got a book to represent learning. I've got a man and a set of weights for building confidence. And I've got a pile of coins for earning money, because you might need to earn some money to buy the things and to do the things that you want. But you could put more ways to achieving your goal than that. If you have some extra ways and know what what other things you need in to achieve your goal. And the next thing we need to think about is who we need help from to get there. Now, we all need help along our personal and our professional journeys. So who do we need to have help from in order to achieve our goals? So in this example, I've put from the bottom, I've put a coach. I've got 3 stick men from family in the form of support, maybe helping me to have more time to do things that I want, say. And I've got a form and a person for customer feedback. Now, this might not look very pretty, and you might be thinking it looks rather childish, but it is incredibly powerful. A picture, as they say, speaks 1,000 words. And if we put all the information contained in this diagram into words, we could have a document which we probably would never read. It wouldn't necessarily look very inspiring either. And just showing it in this way brings out storytelling in us, and we are really hardwired for story and narrative. It's hardwired in our DNA, and it's how we learn and grow, and how we find out how we fit in society right from when we're born, from when we're tiny. And this picture tells the story of what we want in one page. It tells about what we want out of life, but there is still one more powerful thing that makes this really incredible as a technique, and that is igniting our logical side. Now, as I said earlier, our creative side of our brain likes to create the destination, but the logical side likes to organize the journey. And we do that by incorporating words into the picture. Now, when I say words, I mean something short and sweet and meaningful for you, not great big long paragraphs. So you can see on there, it's the main goal, I've got a new house, and the sub goal to the left is new job. The sub goal to the right is holiday. The reasons why above are happiness, family, and life balance. And the hows are learning, strength and confidence, and money. And the who we needs are the coaching, family, and customer feedback. And really, the last thing that needs to go on here that is really powerful already, but what it really does need is a time frame, because a plan without a time frame is like a ship without a rudder, and you will just drift around. When a ship leaves a harbour, it has a complete voyage mapped out and planned. The captain and the crew know exactly where the ship is going and how long it will take. It has a definite goal. And 9,999 times out of 10,000, it will get to where it started out to get. So you need to put in there what's a measurable goal for you, a start date and an end date. But be realistic with this, and it's okay if you can change things as you're going. That's fine. But at least you've got something to work towards and a time frame. But please don't stick it in a dusty drawer and forget about it. Keep it on view. If this is your personal goal, pin it up on a wall where you'll see it every day. Maybe put it next to the bed, so it's the first thing that you'll see in the morning, and maybe the last thing that you'll see at night. If you're a bit of a fridge raider, why not stick it on the front of the fridge? Put it in the bathroom. If it's a business plan, and obviously you will have nicer images, more in keeping with your business structure, but why not put it up on the office wall? Let everybody know what your goal is. Make it a talking point with your customers, because they really like to understand why you're doing something. This should be a living document, something that is kept up to date, something that you look at all the time. And there's another way. I'm going to go straight into another technique. There's another way of understanding what you need to plan. Because if you're a bit unsure, you know what you want, but you're really unsure how to put your plans, what you need to plan and how you do it, this is a great technique for doing that. So what we need to start off with again is always with the end in mind. Start off with a goal. What is it that you want to achieve? So your goal is the transformation. What does your business offer? Next then, have a look at the things that you need to enable that goal to manifest. So inside each of the ellipses, write it with something with a verb noun. Things that you want. What do you need for your goal to happen? So let's have a think. So say this is a personal, you're doing this for a personal plan, and your main goal is to move house. Then what you might need to enable that to happen is you might need to sell your house. You might need to find a property. You might need to decide on location, you might need to raise funds. Now, all of those are different enabling things that you need to do. Equally, if you were looking at this from a business point of view, and say you had a life coaching business, then the things that to enable you to do the life coaching, which is your goal. So your enablers would be maybe to build a website. Another one second one could be to advertise. The third one might be gaining coaching skills. Maybe you need to do some more training, keep yourself up to date on those skills. Maybe you need to find premises. Maybe you need to find finances. You know, you're not limited to the 4. So once you know what your goal is and you know what you need to enable that goal to come into fruition, this is where your plans come into place. Okay, so I've put 5 plans there. Obviously, you're not limited to the 5 plans. So if we go back to say it's our personal plan of moving house, then we had an enabling was to sell our house. Now, our plan would be, how are we going to sell our house? You know, which estate agent are we going to use? Then we might need to plan where we want to live. So we might have to do some research on areas. We might have to do some visits within that location. Then if we got finances, it was an enabling. We might need to go to the bank, find out the different rates. We might need to do some research about where we can borrow money. And that sounds very simplistic if you're doing that for a personal goal, but it can become a little more challenging if you're looking at it from a business perspective. So for a life coaching business, you could start to plan. You needed the website to enable your business to operate or to reach your goal. So your first plan could be what you want your website to say about you, you know, what your brand is, what your business offer is. Your second plan might be around looking about an advertising campaign, maybe with some offers. You know, if you were looking at if one of your enablings was to do with around learning and continuing professional development, you might need to plan the upkeep of your development. You might need to understand your industry recommended training practices and qualifications. If an enabling factor was taking on premises, you might need to plan your premises. So you might need to do research on footfall, business rates, lease costs, amount of space you need, things like that. And if an enabling factor was to raise with finances, a budget to be able to operate, then you need to plan the finances you need to set up. So maybe you need to look at 12-month forecasting, where you can get that funding from. Can you get it from a bank? Do you need to have investors? Do you need to pitch that? Do you need to prepare presentations? How do you get that finance? So you need to know how much you need to plan, how much finance you need and where you're going to get it from to keep you going until your new business starts generating profit. Now, once you've finished on the planning stage, you need to think about what you need to monitor in order to make sure your goals succeed. So we need some monitors in there as well. Now, going back to our personal goal of moving house, that could be putting on, so one of our monitoring factors could be putting your house on the market by a particular date. Another monitoring could be narrowing the location of the house you want to buy down to a 10-mile radius. Another monitoring factor could be sorting out the mortgage by a particular date, or calculating the level of finance you comfortably can afford to borrow. So that keeps the time frame on your plans and your goals, keeps you moving forward. Now, going back to our life coaching business, we could monitor our click open rates on our online advertising per month. Obviously, you need a time frame on there. We could check that our customer list will increase by, say, 20% in the next 2 months. We could monitor that the lease is signed on a new premises by a particular date, or we could monitor that our overdraft doesn't exceed a particular level each month. I mean, these are just a few examples. But if the factors that you're monitoring don't fall within your expectations, then the diagram falls down to a lightning strike, which signifies taking control action. And the last bit of the diagram on here are the arrows. Now, this is a dependency diagram. So you can see that you can have more than one plan to an enabling function. You can have them joining up in different ways. But what it shows is that plan links to that enabling, and that enabling function enables your goal to be realized. And in order for your goal to be realized, you need to monitor that to make sure that it's happening in the timeframes and in the way that you're expecting. And if it doesn't monitor in the right way, then you need to take control action. So this is a really, really great way of visually showing what it is you're trying to do. So your transformation or your goal in the middle, what you need to enable this to happen, how you plan for that, how you monitor to make sure that it works, and then understand that if those monitors fail, that you need to take control action about this as well. This is a great, great tool. And just like with the other one, it's really nice to be able to have a diagram all in one page rather than having this in lots of different words. But having a big plan can seem scary. And we keep hearing that we should dream big, but there is a tendency for a lot of us to dream small. And it really is much better to dream big and fall short than to dream small and meet it. And yet big dreams are really scary. They can sometimes seem unattainable. And when they're too big, they can put us off from starting our journey towards them, because there are times we don't believe we can really achieve them. So I'd really, really urge you to chunk it down. Break it up into manageable chunks. Now, if your goal is something you think you can attain within the end of a 12-month period, then break the steps down into monthly, weekly, and even daily goals. So if your big goal, say you're a new business, and your big goal is to earn, or a newish business, your big goal, £1 million in a year, the next 12 months. And at the moment, that might seem like utter madness. But when you break it down into months, okay, your goal is £83,333 per month. You know, that still might seem pretty scary. Okay, so let's break it down into weeks. Well, that makes £19,231 per week. Still might seem quite a lot. So let's break that down into days. Well, that makes £2,740 per day. Now, how can we achieve that? Well, we could say, okay, I could achieve £2,740 per day if I ring 10 clients and 5 of them meet me for a meeting, discuss plans, or I sell a policy, or I do this. So it might seem more achievable for you if you can just break that down and chunk it rather than seeing the whole big picture all in one go. It really is all about baby steps. You know, each and every day, moving that baby step towards your personal or your business goals. And I'd really urge you to try not to work on too many projects at one time. And make sure that what you do, that you do fit into, everything you do fits into your values and your mission and goals, so that you are working towards what you want and that you're not deviating away from it. And if you do all that, before you know it, you'll be standing out from the herd. And in the not too distant future, you'll look back and find that you've taken a monumental journey, and that creative planning took away the fear of stepping out and making a difference. Because the key to making a difference in your life is creativity. And as Steve Jobs said, creativity is about connecting things. It helps us to connect to what we really want and to become who we really want to be. And in doing that, we might need to change our values and beliefs to support what we want from the future. Because as Einstein said, creativity is intelligence having fun. And the sad fact is that most education providers and then some workplaces stifle creativity. They impose rules and regulations that constrict creativity, and we can find ourselves conforming to the expectations of others rather than following what we really want. Now, I work with individuals, entrepreneurs, and organizations to help them restore creativity and well-being into their lives and their workplaces. And when I do, I see huge improvements in terms of personal satisfaction, sickness levels drop, greater job satisfaction, and greater business growth. You know, being creative is incredibly good for our health, wealth, and our well-being as well. So the benefits really of having and making sure you have a regular flow of creativity in your life. And creativity really isn't about picking up a paintbrush. It's not about learning to paint or writing a novel, but that's kind of okay if that's what you want. It's about finding what we want to do, looking at things in different ways, and it helps us to overcome obstacles. It helps us to think out of the box, find new ways of dealing with both personal and professional obstacles and issues. It can help us to become more grounded. And when we do, we naturally attract more people to us and make better connections and help us to gain better cooperation with others. And when you're calmer and grounded, you're less likely to suffer the emotional highs and lows of dealing with tricky situations. And subsequently, you have better health. You're better at planning towards your goals, so you hit more home runs, and it can make you a happier person. So really, thinking creativity is so beneficial both to us as a person and to businesses as well. If you want to know how creativity can benefit you, I've got my Creative Academy membership. It takes an awful lot about us as people. And this really is no ordinary training. It's all about a transformational journey. And like our lives, our creative journey is not linear. But this provides you with monthly strategies, tools and techniques for applying creative thinking into your everyday life. It will help you keep your mind and your thinking flexible and open to new opportunities. And it will can help transform you from holding back through fear into opening the doors of inspiration and opportunity. And what you get is you get a video, a podcast, a meditation or visualization. They have members only webinars, which are great, and lots of other bonus deals and content as well. I'm actually doing a mini course, which is going to be free to members, about presentation skills and how to present, looking about understanding your audience, the effect your ego can have on your presentation, understanding how to present, how to engage using story and narrative, and how to violate customers' expectations as well. Is really, so that's all part of that. So that's like a bonus extra. But with a membership, there's just for a short period of time, we've got some money off if you use coupon code giraffes. But the membership can be cancelled at any time, and within the first 30 days, if you don't like it, that's fine. You can have your money back, no problem at all. But join the other people. That if you're not already a member, I know there are members here, but if you're not already a member, people like Richard Branson said, telling a story is one of the best ways we have of coming up with new ideas. And this is the sort of place that will help you do that. And Ben Horowitz, a venture capitalist, said storytelling is the most underrated skill. And it's not enough for us to have facts on our side. We need to do storytelling. We need to tell the story of why we're doing what we're doing, who we are, what we can offer. So it's really kind of key. If you focus on planning, I've got a Planning for Success program as well around. This is a 3-week course, and it's different because you get the bonus of 3 coaching calls as well, which are worth more than the course itself. And that comes back to the whole thing. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So this is a really powerful thing. And we look more about setting goals, what's critical to your success, really in depth looking at your customer. And then we look at market analysis, the big wide world, your business sector, internal analysis of your company. Are you making the most of your resources? Bringing all that together into a SWOT. Cash flow forecasting. We look at the power of story, how to build your reputation, how to use story to pitch for investment and to connect with your customers. So all that's in there as well. So that's great. And what happens is the coaching calls ensure you get a return on investment because it helps you to implement all that as well. So if you've got any questions or anything, you can have a look at my videos on YouTube. just check me out on Debbie Clement-Large. You can follow me on Twitter at whyfollowherd. Drop me an email, debbie@whyfollowtheherd.com. And, you know, it's been an absolute pleasure today for you taking your time out of your day to join me on this. This is a really, really great journey. So thank you for coming along for the ride. If you're part of the Creative Academy already, or you're on the Planning for Success Fundamentals program, then I look forward to catching up with you soon. And finally, I hope that you'll leave this webinar ready to start deciding upon your goals, and that you'll put your plans into action. And I really hope to catch up with you soon. And take care, and I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. Thanks for joining me.